14 Powerful Lessons from Joseph's Life that prove God never forgets you. Have you ever wondered why God gives someone a dream but allows them to suffer first? Why do good people sometimes face betrayal, rejection, and years of waiting? Imagine being hated by your own family, sold as a slave, falsely accused, thrown into prison, and forgotten for years. Most people would give up. Most people would stop believing. But one young man held on to God, and his story still inspires millions today. His name was Joseph. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may completely change the way you see your own struggles. Lesson 1: God can show you your future before you see the path. Joseph was only 17 years old when God gave him two powerful dreams. In the dreams, his brothers bowed before him. Even the sun, moon, and stars seemed to honor him. Genesis 37:5 says, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. Joseph did not understand how these dreams would happen. He was simply a shepherd boy. Many times, God gives us dreams that seem impossible. He shows us the destination but hides the journey. Maybe God has placed a dream inside your heart. Do not give up simply because you cannot see the road ahead. Lesson 2: Not everyone will support your dreams. Joseph's brothers became jealous. His father loved him deeply and gave him a special coat. But instead of celebrating him, his brothers hated him. One day they saw Joseph coming from a distance. They said, "Here comes that dreamer." Jealousy can sometimes come from the people closest to us. People may mock your dreams, criticize your goals, or doubt your future. But never let people's opinions become stronger than God's promises. Lesson 3: The pit is only the beginning. Joseph's brothers threw him into an empty pit. Imagine the fear. One moment he was walking toward his brothers. The next moment he was crying for help while they sat down to eat. The pit represents those moments in life when everything suddenly falls apart. Perhaps you lost a job. Perhaps you experienced rejection. Perhaps life did not go as planned. But God often starts great stories in dark places. The pit was not Joseph's ending. Lesson 4: God can turn rejection into redirection. Joseph was sold to traders and taken to Egypt as a slave. Everything appeared lost. His family believed he was dead. His dream seemed impossible. Yet what looked like rejection was actually God's redirection. Sometimes closed doors protect us. Sometimes painful endings lead us toward God's greater plan. Even when life changes suddenly, God remains in control. Lesson 5: Be faithful in small places. Joseph became a servant in Potiphar's house. He could have become bitter. He could have refused to work. Instead, he served faithfully. Genesis 39:2 says, The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered. Joseph worked with excellence. Soon Potiphar trusted him with everything. Many people pray for promotion while neglecting their current responsibilities. Joseph teaches us to be faithful where we are. God often prepares us in small places before taking us to bigger ones. Lesson 6: Temptation can destroy destiny. Potiphar's wife repeatedly tempted Joseph. Nobody was watching. He could have hidden his sin. But Joseph said, Genesis 39:9, How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Joseph understood that temporary pleasure was not worth losing God's favor. Many destinies have been destroyed by one wrong decision. Integrity protects the future God has prepared for you. Lesson 7: Doing what is right may bring suffering. Because Joseph refused temptation, he was falsely accused. Potiphar became angry. Joseph was thrown into prison. Imagine the pain. He honored God and still suffered. Many people believe that obedience guarantees an easy life. Joseph proves otherwise. Sometimes doing what is right leads to difficult seasons. But God sees every sacrifice. Lesson 8: God is present in the prison. Years passed. Joseph remained in prison. But the Bible repeatedly says, The Lord was with Joseph. God was in the pit. God was in slavery. God was in prison. Sometimes we think God has abandoned us because our prayers seem unanswered. But God never left Joseph. And he never leaves his children. Your waiting season is not proof that God has forgotten you. Lesson 9, never stop using your gift. While in prison, Joseph met Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker. Both had troubling dreams. Joseph interpreted them. Even in prison, Joseph continued using his gift. Many people stop serving God when life becomes difficult. Joseph continued helping others. Your gift may open the very door God intends to use. Do not bury what God has placed inside you. Lesson 10, delay does not mean denial. The cupbearer promised to remember Joseph. But he forgot him. Joseph remained in prison for 2 more years. Can you imagine that disappointment? Perhaps you have prayed for years. Perhaps opportunities disappeared. Perhaps people forgot their promises. Joseph teaches us that God's timing is perfect. A delay is not a denial. God is still working behind the scenes. Lesson 11, God can change everything in one day. One night Pharaoh had troubling dreams. Nobody could interpret them. Suddenly the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was brought from prison. Standing before Pharaoh, Joseph said, "It is not in me, God will give Pharaoh the answer." In a single day Joseph went from prisoner to ruler. Years of suffering changed overnight. Your breakthrough may arrive when you least expect it. Never quit during the waiting season. Lesson 12, wisdom brings promotion. Joseph not only interpreted Pharaoh's dream. He offered a solution. He advised Egypt to save food during 7 years of abundance. Pharaoh recognized God's wisdom in Joseph. Joseph became second in command over Egypt. God does not only bless people with gifts. He blesses people with wisdom. Ask God for wisdom in your decisions, finances, family, and future. Lesson 13, forgiveness sets you free. Years later, famine brought Joseph's brothers to Egypt. They bowed before him exactly as God had shown years earlier. Joseph had every reason to seek revenge. Instead, he wept. He forgave them. Genesis 50:20 says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Forgiveness does not erase pain. It releases us from bitterness. Joseph chose healing over revenge. Lesson 14, God uses pain for purpose. Joseph's suffering saved nations. Because of his wisdom, Egypt survived famine. His own family survived. The very brothers who betrayed him were rescued through him. Every pit had a purpose. Every prison had a purpose. Every delay had a purpose. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him." God can use your pain. God can use your waiting. God can use your disappointments. Nothing is wasted in God's hands. Conclusion. Joseph's story is not just about a man who became a ruler. It is the story of a God who never abandons his people. When Joseph was in the pit, God was there. When Joseph was a slave, God was there. When Joseph sat in prison, God was there. When Joseph entered the palace, God was there. Perhaps you are currently in your own pit. Perhaps you feel forgotten. Perhaps your dreams seem impossible. Remember Joseph. The same God who turned a prisoner into a ruler can still change lives today. Keep believing. Keep praying. Keep serving. Keep trusting. Because your story is not over. God is still writing it. And one day, like Joseph, you may discover that every painful chapter was leading you toward a greater purpose.